Welcome to the Red Med podcast, Rescue, Expedition and Disaster Medicine, where we provide a platform for healthcare professionals working in or aspiring to join rescue, expedition and disaster response teams. A platform to share information, advice and opportunities and connect like-minded Red Med individuals in our community. Welcome to episode 8 of the Red Med podcast. As usual, I'm joined by our SOS crew chief, Chris Sharp. Afternoon, Chris.
Good afternoon.
This podcast is supported by SOS Coffee, Guatemalan coffee that we sell locally and internationally to fund our medical missions for underserved communities and to deliver free CPR and bleeding control courses around the region. Following on from the last podcast, where we discussed some considerations for planning and execution of expeditions, whether it be jungle or mountain, we thought we'd have a bit of a coffee, cake and cases session. So we sat here with a coffee, or in your case a cup of tea, some biscuits, and we just thought we'd bounce some ideas around about a recent case study where we applied those same principles to a jungle expedition. Albeit it was a short duration, it was in very deep, very remote jungle in challenging conditions without communications. So I thought it'd be ideal to try and put all of those pre-planning considerations into context, really, and talk about your recent trip supporting the film crew. So, do you want to give us a little bit of context as to what the job was in general first?
The job was through a UK media company as part of a National Geographic series that was ongoing. I'll not mention the name because I don't know if I'm allowed to. And they're filming the Mayan sites, not the normal ones like Mirador and Tikal, although they will be filmed, but these are the ones that are actually more important historically than Mirador, believe it or not.
Wow.
And to give an idea of location, we flew from Guatemala commercial north for an hour to Flores Petén, then 4x4, 8 hours west across the country before we got into small boats, and then we did 4 hours up the river on the border between Mexico and Guatemala to the fixed campsite, and that's where we kind of day run out of 12-hour days filming. We were actually in the camp only the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and we departed the Friday. So time period, it was very short, but it's a week literally in the middle of nowhere. We were in it's a former jungle camp, logging camp that's now been converted into a ranger station, but there is nothing up there for miles, apart from
no roads, no phone signals,
nothing,
no medical support,
just things that want to eat you.
Interesting. Yeah, there's all sorts up there. Okay, so that gives us a bit of context as to the recent case. It'd be good to break this down into phases so it links in with the last podcast. Once you got the initial request, or we at SOS got the initial request to support this TV crew, what research did you do and what sources did you look for information?
To start with, I came in the office and they went, "Sharp, you're going to Petén." And as we all know, Petén is kind of a built-up city, and it was like, okay. We're filming for National Geographic, so it's not going to be in the city then. There was a couple of emails banded around between a fixer on location out here, and then finally I got put in touch with the production manager in the UK, which through phone calls and all that is exactly what you're doing and where you're going. And the big problem we had initially were they were giving names like El Porvenir. There's 9 of those in Guatemala.
Yeah, that's true.
Which specific one, and because they wanted to then involve helicopters, and obviously we have the link with those, and it just saved language, is I need latitude and longitude, so we exactly know we're talking about the same place. Or if you've not got that exactly, at the same time as you're on the phone, let's look at Google Earth, and we kind of walked the cursors across while talking till we found exactly where we were going. Once I had that plan, I came in the office, swore at a few people, saying it's not as easy as just pretend.
It's deep in the jungle.
I spoke to, just wait till the Huey goes. I spoke to Max Baldetti because he does a lot of stuff in that region. He's done a lot of TV shows, and Nils Santos from
local herpetologist.
Yeah, he runs the Central Antivenom Network of what kind of terrain it is, the climate. There was a risk assessment from the UK, which was invariably wrong, even down to the weather this time of year. Probably got from the CIA World Fact Book.
From my understanding, there was some information, whether it be the risk assessment or just general background information, from a local fixer, a local guy who probably has never left Guatemala City, let alone been up there.
Yeah, and it was good to cut him out of the equation because I've got nothing to do with him in part of our research. Yeah, we did correspond for other things, but like you say, he's probably never left the city, ever, or been down the beach. Huey's coming back. Well, that's made my day. So I spoke to the guys out I knew, like Max, because he's done up there with all these various TV filming. Nils, who goes up there for snakes, because that's his job. So I got an idea of what animal threats were up there, the climate, the terrain. Yeah, at this point you will not get a phone signal, so I could start and generally form a plan. And the good thing about news companies, they produce, it's called a call sheet. It's got everybody's details, contact details, everything on it. It's got the filming schedule, the flight schedule. It tells you exactly what... It's like a daily orders in the military.
That helped us plan everything from the communications to the medical response to the pre-training.
And that was the basis of what I planned around. Because I know on this day, I don't know exactly the area you're going. There's very little information on it. It's like Macalero. Nobody's ever been there, apart from the archaeologists that were taking. I tried contacting him, but he was coming off another project, flying from overseas. So... yeah, there were bits missing. But I took their call sheet, what I spoke with on the phone, the local advice, and that kind of gave me an overall umbrella picture of what we were doing.
It was interesting to see it develop because I was on the fringes, providing what support you needed from the outside. But the first conversation we had was, the area looks like somebody's dropped green paint on a piece of paper. And over the course of 2 or 3 days, as people added more fragments and snippets of information, the picture became clearer. We got better mapping, better idea of what was going on.
Yeah, because even if you look on Piedras Negras, if you look on Google Earth or any of those, it's just green.
Yeah.
With a river in it.
No tracks.
There's nothing there. So it's then taking that. Obviously, I got the UK. They had their risk assessment. And then I added my own risks of local knowledge of this is the type of snake. They are quite mature in that area. The Ferdolances are a bit more angry because they're a bit older. There's crocodiles, there's monkeys. It's all there. From then, I did a lot of research on the type of crocodile. How do they hunt? Because they're ambush predators. The snakes. I spoke to you quite a bit about snakes.
Yeah.
So I can generate in my own mind a risk assessment of the animals. Because everybody thinks snakes is the biggest killer, whereas we know actually in the jungle dehydration is the number one killer, followed by deadfall or bits of trees falling on you. And howler monkeys like throwing things at people underneath them. Yeah. Whether their own excrement or the nearest tree.
Yeah, my hammock was covered in it last time.
So then that gives you a basis of there are a lot of emails about anti-venom and this misconception that we can just give it. But then you have to, I admit before, 3 weeks ago, I'd not done a lot on anti-venom for about a year, but then I spent 4 or 5 days talking to you, heads in books, latest research.
I mean, that's a podcast in itself. It's unless you've been in this environment before and had to rely on it and had to know it and carry it, the responsibility of carrying it, you wouldn't really know. You've got polyvalent, monovalent, second generation, third generation, initial dose, subsequent doses, polyvalent for the viper species, then for the corals and the elapids, etc. It's a huge field, isn't it?
And even on that, it was the local fixer, he had available a certain type, but it needs to be refrigerated.
Yeah.
And we're not carrying a fridge in the middle of the jungle.
And it's all well and good saying we'll give it in hospital only. There's obviously a lot more opportunities to manage the risks and the potential complications of anti-venom in a hospital, but if you're reined in, the helicopter can't come in, you're talking a 2-3 day trek out in the jungle and somebody's got a serious grade 2, grade 3 envenomation, you haven't got that time to get to hospital.
So it's all that, and in consultation with yourself and the SOS medical director, this is a list of drugs I want to take to manage what I perceive as the threats.
So post-research, you had the preparation phase, which included your drugs.
Then you added some others in that I'd overlooked or not heard of, which then took me down another route of, okay, I'm now going to take this drug.
I think we considered it in 3 different ways. That we looked at the primary care drugs for the everyday coughs, sniffles and grazes. Then you had the emergency drugs, the standard ACLS drugs, and then the specific to the environment drugs.
And then, where necessary, training by yourself or the medical director on ones that I'd not used for a while, unfamiliar, or just as a refresher anyway.
Yeah.
Because obviously a lot is in Spanish, really small Spanish, so you can't read it. So then that involves you then taking it away and labelling everything. I put everything in a Ziploc bag with the name in Spanish and in English. It's dosed, so there was I didn't have to rummage around looking for different types of tablets that all look the same.
In the dark with sweat in your eyes.
Yeah. So the research, that kind of and preparation, it kind of merged into, because then it was like, I now know where we're going. This is without looking at the MEDEVAC plan. What am I going to carry daily? Am I going to do a fixed camp? All those considerations. Because at the end of the day, I'm still number one in the jungle. I've got to carry my own personal gear in a rucksack. So how big a rucksack am I taking? There's tree foliage this time of year, rain season. There's a lot of dangly things. I don't want a big rucksack, so I took kind of a medium one. Framed, unframed, all that kind of arguments. So I just basically took a soft one that I've used before, which prevented me from taking too much. Predominantly was water, machete, my head net, torches, batteries, my solar charger, the hammock, a steel mug and a firelighting kit.
Dry kit.
The dry kit I didn't take daily. Normally I would take dry kit in my Bergen, but because I left a hammock permanently at the camp, my dry kit stayed there. So because we were doing 12-hour days, if I'd have been wet overnight, it'd have been for one night because we were rained in. So, and I'd probably be not sleeping anyway because it meant I'd have had a patient.
Well, the dry kit on the route in by canoe, presumably it was double bagged. Canoe
bags, everything. Inside a big mountain equipment bag, the main med bag that I left in the camp, that was all bagged up and sealed. But I told everybody, obviously we took 4 boats, long little wooden boats with motors on. The main med bag, it got put with all the other luggage, but then I put it in our boat, and they're like, why is your personal gear? I said, because the big med bag's in this one. Because if I get injured, at least you know where it is. Or because we had to decamp people from one boat to another to get over rapids, so everybody knew where it was at all times.